I could say is, this is bad on a number of levels. We're getting endless sequels, and we're getting China trash. That's the future of Hollywood, if Zootopia 2 is any indication.
I'm watching Vito talking about Zootopia 2, something I haven't watched, I'm not really interested in, but he's made a point that everything's sequels now. There's not going to be anything new that people in the film corporations and stuff, Hollywood and that, are afraid to make something fresh, make something new, make standalone, unique new stories. So more and more everything is leaning towards sequels of things that exist. So instead of, let's come up with this new thing that no one's ever fucking heard of, we'll do another Star Wars sequel, we'll do another Zootopia sequel, we'll do another Aladdin sequel, we'll do another James Bond sequel, we'll do, you know, it's like, so you move from a world of unique standalone films to franchises full of sequels, like, that are based on some core concept that is popular, and you keep going with that. And I just thought, like, what's the logical conclusion of that if you evolve it over time? And so everything becomes sequels. So people don't want all the individual things, they want competing, like, franchises based around, say, a character or a world. And then eventually, if that's the trend that people are following, like the masses of termite humans are following a trend, like, you jump from the individual unique things to everything sequels, and then you jump to fewer and fewer sequels, because that's too, I don't know, I want to say diverse, but that's too varied. There's too many franchises at that point, so you reduce that down, so there's like 5 franchises, and everyone's adding their new films and new stories to, like, only Aladdin, Zootopia, Batman, Star Wars, and fucking, I don't know, James Bond, just to pick out of my hat some franchises. Okay, so you've reduced that down to 5 franchises, only ever films reduced for those 5 franchises. So there's still tons of films coming out, but they're only for those 5 characters. I guess people believe them to be, like, familiar, and, like, there's too much diversity, there's too much variety, so they're reducing stuff, simplifying, I guess, in some ways, but in other ways they're not, and they're constraining the rules, I guess, of what is expected to release. So if someone releases something outside that, you know, Zootopia, Batman, Aladdin, James Bond, whatever, like the society's collectivist stuff that I don't believe in, but the collectivist behavior that the socialists want from people is to go, ugh, like, oh my god, that's socially unacceptable. You're come up with a new word for, like, racist or Nazi, come up with a new slur to chuck at people who make a unique film outside the 5 franchises. It's nothing to do with the 5 franchises. Probably arrest this person or something. Like, that's a new offensive or whatever. And then the progression of that forward would be like, there's still 5 franchises, that's still too many. We'll reduce it to 1 franchise, so it's now Batman. You can only ever create films that are Batman. Now you become a heretic, a slur person who needs to get arrested if you make a film for James Bond or Aladdin or Zootopia. Now we'll get you arrested for that because you didn't make a film outside Batman. Like, what are you, some kind of fucking heretic? You didn't, we're only doing Batman now. And then it becomes like, okay, we project into the future, people are only ever allowed to make films within the Batman universe about Batman and his world. So that's what every film now goes into, must be a sequel of this specific thing. And then you have eons and eons of that, like, kind of like when you go through history and you see there's like not hierarchies, what's the word, dynasties. Like there's the Chinese, there's different dynasties of Chinese history. Like there's this era of China. But it's still China, but it's this dynasty, and then the next dynasty happens and things are slightly different, then the next dynasty happens. It's a bit like that, but for Batman. And so you have the era of Batman where we're doing this and we can't really make it work and it's too frivolous. Then we have the era where it's more purist Batman and we make it, we're more focused now, we know what we're fucking doing. And then we have another era of Batman where something new comes in to twist it around that no one was expecting, and it becomes something different. And then over time people think that's too much diversity and variety, so they're like, oh my god, we've got too much history of Batman, like too many different dynasties of Batman. We got to purify that and make that something smaller and more pure and more narrow-minded. You know, I could just like that's what I see the weird progression of this being. If you follow the socialism and collectivism through and all the authoritarian control through, and add more and more regulations and add more and more, like, I'm offended by you. It's like the Newspeak dictionary in 1984. You know, we had 50 words last month. Now the new Newspeak dictionary edition has come out. You're only allowed to use 10 words this month. And you're like a heretic if you use any of the words from the previous dictionary. Because now we're reducing the words. We're trying to purify the words. We're trying to simplify everything. We're trying to narrow. We're trying to homogenize everything. We're trying to control everything. We're trying to make less variety of everything. So you're only allowed to use the 10 words. And then finally, like, you'll only be able to use like 2 words in a month's time for the next edition, like yes and no. And then after that, you're not allowed to use words at all. You just do what we say. Do what the party says, comrade. That's what came to mind when watching Vito say, we're now moving from a world of unique, creative, original film ideas to a world where you can only do sequels. Logical progression, that's what I think. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been a Topic Vlog.